Pierce Brosnan has lived most of his life under the illusion of perfection. The face of James Bond, the accent, the confidence, the quiet power that made him a legend. But the woman standing beside him, Keely Shaye Smith, has carried a very different burden, one the cameras never stop judging, reducing her to headlines, jokes, and cruel commentary that ignored everything she truly was. This isn't a story about applause or transformation. It's a story about endurance, silence, and the devastating price of being loved in public while the spotlight never left her body. Before we dive into this powerful story, please hit that subscribe button right now. Help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Your support means everything to us. According to the document, for years Hollywood pretended not to understand Keely Shaye Smith. The source reveals she was introduced to the public not as an award-winning journalist, not as a documentary filmmaker, not as an environmental activist who dedicated decades of her life to protecting marine ecosystems, but simply as Pierce Brosnan's wife. The material states that worse than being ignored, she became a target. According to the document, as Pierce Brosnan aged, the world applauded him, his gray hair became distinguished, his wrinkles were described as character, and every appearance reinforced the myth of a man who had somehow beaten time. But the source reveals that next to him, Keely was treated differently. The document states her body was dissected relentlessly, headlines speculated, comment sections sharpened their cruelty, and trolls asked questions no human being should ever be asked. According to the material, they questioned why he stayed, why he didn't leave, why she didn't fix herself. The source explains the scrutiny did not arrive overnight. It built quietly after the births of their children when Keely's body changed in ways that are ordinary, human, and irreversible for many women. The document reveals that pregnancy weight gain, thyroid complications, and the natural passage of time became public property. According to the source, the internet behaved as if it were owed an explanation. And through all of it, the material states Keely said almost nothing. If you're finding this story eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe. We're working hard to reach 10K subscribers with your help. But according to the document, back in 2006, when the pressure was already intense, Keely told Vogue something that would later feel prophetic. The source quotes her saying she never shied away from her curves, that she never hid in baggy clothing, and that she had no intention of apologizing for her body. The material describes this as not defiance, but calm certainty, a woman deciding she would not shrink to survive. According to the document, Pierce, for his part, never joined the performance of shame. While strangers dissected his marriage, the source reveals he stood firm in a way Hollywood rarely allows men to. The material states he said his wife was stunning, he said he loved her curves, and he repeated it year after year, even when the world mocked him for saying it. But the document notes, and yet, loving someone publicly does not stop the cruelty. It only exposes you to more of it. According to the source, what made this story tragic was never Keely's appearance. It was the silence surrounding everything else she was and how long the world refused to see it. But according to the material, long before Keely Shaye Smith ever walked into his life, Pierce Brosnan had already learned what it meant to lose everything quietly. The document reveals his childhood was shaped by absence. His father walked away when he was still a baby, and his mother left soon after to work as a nurse in London, leaving him behind in Ireland to be raised by his grandparents. The source states that from an early age, Pierce learned independence not as a choice, but as survival. According to the document, by the time he married Cassandra Harris, he believed he had found stability, a family, a home, a future that finally made sense. The material describes Cassandra as vibrant, intelligent, and deeply loved. The source reveals that together they built a life that felt earned rather than manufactured. According to the document, they had a son, Sean, and Pierce legally adopted Cassandra's 2 children from her previous marriage, Charlotte and Christopher, giving them his name and his full commitment. This story gets even more powerful. Please subscribe now and help us hit our goal of 10,000 subscribers. But according to the material, then came the diagnosis that would fract. You're everything. The document reveals Cassandra was told she had ovarian cancer. Not a shadow, not something minor. The source states Pierce later described it as something that had invaded her entire being. According to the document, what followed was years of surgeries, chemotherapy, hospital rooms, and the slow realization that love does not always save the people you love most. The material reveals Cassandra endured multiple operations and relentless treatment, but the disease never loosened its grip. The source states she died after years of suffering, leaving Pierce alone with 3 children and a grief he never publicly dramatized. According to the document, at the very moment his career was reaching its peak, his private life was collapsing. The material describes how audiences saw confidence and studios saw a leading man, but at home, Pierce was learning how to parent through loss, how to show up when exhaustion became permanent, and how to remain present while carrying a grief that never resolved. According to the source, this is the man Keely would later meet. She did not walk into a blank slate. She walked into a life shaped by trauma, responsibility, and emotional scars that fame could not erase. The document states that loving Pierce Brosnan meant loving a man who had already buried a wife, protected 3 children through unimaginable loss, and learned how fragile happiness truly is. Stay with us for the heartbreaking details, and please hit subscribe to support our journey to 10K. According to the material, when Keely Shaye Smith met Pierce Brosnan, it wasn't on a red carpet or inside a studio designed for mythology. The source reveals it happened quietly on a beach in Mexico during what was supposed to be a routine work assignment. The document states Keely had been sent to conduct an interview and Pierce was there by chance. According to the material, neither of them knew they were standing at the edge of a life that would permanently change them both. The source explains that Pierce was still grieving whether the world saw it or not. The loss of Cassandra had not faded into the background. According to the document, he was not searching for spectacle or rescue. He was searching for peace. The material reveals that Keely was not chasing a famous man. By that point, the source states she was already established, a journalist, an on-camera presence, a woman comfortable with her own voice. According to the document, she later described him as captivating with a mischievous sparkle in his eyes. But beneath that charm was something quieter, a gentleness shaped by loss. The source reveals their relationship did not unfold at the pace of Hollywood romance. According to the material, it unfolded around children, schedules, healing, and trust. The document states Keely stepped into a family that had already been broken once. She didn't erase the past. She respected it. According to the source, before marriage was ever discussed, they became parents together. The material reveals Dylan was born, followed by Paris. The document states that only after building a life rooted in stability did they formalize their bond. If this powerful love story has moved you, show your support by subscribing. Let's reach 10,000 subscribers together. According to the document, as the years passed, the narrative surrounding Keely Shaye Smith hardened into something deeply unfair. The source states her body became the headline, not her work. The material reveals the internet treated her presence beside Pierce Brosnan as a provocation, as if love itself required public approval. According to the document, what made the cruelty more relentless was Keely's refusal to perform outrage. The source explains she did not argue with strangers, did not release statements defending her appearance, and did not offer explanations about pregnancy, hormones, thyroid complications, or the quiet realities of a woman aging outside Hollywood's narrow expectations. The material states, her silence was interpreted not as dignity, but as permission. According to the document, the double standard could not have been clearer. The source reveals that as Pierce aged, he was celebrated, his gray hair was romanticized. His lines were framed as proof of wisdom. But the material states Keely's body was treated as a problem to be solved, as if marriage were conditional on her conformity to an image she never agreed to uphold. According to the source, online discussions crossed boundaries no marriage should ever endure. The document reveals people questioned why Pierce stayed. Some suggested surgery, while others implied deception, as if her body had violated an unspoken contract with the public. The material notes that few acknowledged the woman who had raised children, supported grief, or built a life of activism and purpose beyond Hollywood's approval. But according to the document, through it all, Pierce remained consistent. The source states he never distanced himself and never softened his words to appease critics. The material reveals he repeated publicly and without hesitation that he loved his wife's curves, that she was the most beautiful woman in his eyes. The document ends with a powerful question. So when you look at this story now, what do you really see? A transformation or a reminder of how quickly we judge what we don't understand? Thank you for joining us on this journey through a love story that survived everything Hollywood threw at it.